Today we're going to talk about a rabbinically prohibited product known as pas akum, or the bread baked by a non-Jew. The permitted product would be what's called pas Yisroel, which is bread baked by a Jew. Now this would assume that both products are completely kosher ingredients, and the only difference between them would be that the non-Jew does the baking and the Jew does the baking. What happened was, in the times of Hillel and Shammai, back in the Second Temple period, they made a bunch of rules restricting fraternization between Jews and non-Jews. And one of the items that was prohibited was the bread. And therefore, during that time period, the bread baked by a non-Jew, even if it was made from completely kosher ingredients, became prohibited in order to reduce the fraternization and reduce the likelihood of intermarriage. However, in later years, this enactment was not followed. That's the conclusion of the Talmud Bavli. What was not clear is, what does that mean that it wasn't followed? So that's actually a dispute that goes all the way down to the time periods of the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and is a difference between Sephardic practice and Ashkenazi practice. What is the difference between them? The practical difference is what's known as commercially available baked bread. In Hebrew, that's called pas palter. A palter is a non-Jewish commercial baker. They bake bread to sell. That's in distinction to pas bal habayis, bread baked by a person for their own home. The Shulchan Aruch takes the approach that one must always buy Jewish bread when it is available, and not buy from either a commercial baker, neither buy from a commercial baker, nor from someone in baking bread in their own home. The Ramah, however, is more lenient and allows one to buy from a commercial baker, even when a Jewish baker is available in town, especially if the quality of the non-Jewish baker's bread exceeds that of the Jewish baker. So the question is, when are they going to allow the non-Jewish bread? What was the enactment to prohibit, and what was the end of the enactment to permit? So the Shulchan Aruch's opinion was that originally these were all prohibited, and the leniency was that when there's no Jewish baker in the town, one may be permitted to go ahead and buy bread from the commercial baker and serve it, even if regularly you would only buy Jewish bread or only bake bread in your own home. The Ramah seems to say that you are always permitted to buy from a commercial bakery. And that has implications even into our own day and age, because so many people today buy bread commercially. And a lot of those products simply say on them that they're kosher. There is a kosher symbol marking that they are acceptable to be consumed by the Jewish consumer. However, they do not meet the strict criteria of the Shulchan Aruch as pas Yisrael. Because if there were a Jewish bakery in the town, according to the Shulchan Aruch, it would impact Sephardic practice and prohibit buying commercially baked bread. Whereas the Ramah would allow one permission to go ahead and buy it. Both of them would seem to prohibit a non-Jewish baker who bakes the bread in their own home not to distribute to anyone else. So if they bake bread in their home and invite you to their home to eat it, that is prohibited according to both the Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch. However, in a time when the breads are permitted, if they were to bake the bread in their home for distribution, that would be permitted. Again, the Shulchan Aruch does not allow one to be lenient on products baked in a non-Jewish home if there is a Jewish baker available in the city. And so therefore, the prohibition depends on, according to Shulchan Aruch, who baked the bread, and not on who's selling it. However, there's one little leniency, is that if a homeowner or a private person decides to go and buy commercially available bread, and they're making their own bread and they're selling commercially available bread, then that would actually be permitted to them. There is one opinion that one may not rely on eating commercially available bread in the home of a non-Jew because you need some type of demarcation that this bread was actually permitted and was not consistently baked and sold through non-Jews. You need some type of recognizable difference. It's either baked by a Jew and then you can eat it in the home of a non-Jew, or it was baked to be sold by a non-Jew, eaten in a Jewish home. But if you have neither of those other conditions, there might be room to be stringent. However, the Ramah is very lenient with Pas Yisrael and allows people to even eat bread baked in the home of a non-Jew when there's no other bread available. And if you have to travel very far distances, for example. So if you have to travel more than 20 minutes, according to the Ramah, that would not necessitate you having to stop to get Pas Yisrael. So when a Jew is involved in the baking, if as long as they are involved in either lighting the fire or are actually involved in the setting up of the bread, that's considered sufficient for Pas Yisrael. Okay, and the statement of throwing a small stick into the fire was added in the Gaonic period to permit it, and the lenient custom seems to follow this opinion as well. There is a dispute about these devices known as glow plugs and pilot lights. And the reason for a dispute is because these items are not actually contributing to the actual fire themselves. For Ashkenazim, they might be able to be lenient because the Ramah is quite lenient on Pas Yisrael anyways, but for Sephardim, you should consult with your rabbi to see if you will rely on these things. Now, the certifying agency will mark the bread as Pas Yisrael or Pat Yisrael, but you need to find out if they actually have a Jew turn on the fire or not, or if they're relying on simply this little hot bar that sits in the oven that has nothing to do with the actual oven fire itself. So please consult your local rabbi about these things. If the bread is baked by a non-Jew, anytime a Jew improves it by cooking it, will make it into Pas Yisrael. So many people allow one to go ahead and take the bread and toast it, especially if it was mostly baked by non-Jews, because this improves the appearance of it, even according to the strict opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. So here, that was our little session on the laws of Pat Yisrael. I hope you enjoyed learning about it. It helps to clear up some of the ambiguities about the Halacha. Thank you for listening, and please remember to like and subscribe our channel and our videos.